Hi, Laura. How are you? Welcome to Cillian Trillion.
Victoria, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here and debunk so many of the myths, myself included, believed about journaling. So, let's start with a big question here. Do you think overthinking is actually unorganized thinking?
I journal because I need to. If I weren't an overthinker, I probably wouldn't journal. And I know from my own experience that journaling helps me structure my thoughts and be able to gain clarity, which gives me more agency over my own thoughts. And that's one of the reasons why I started a journal product company was because I wanted to bring more people to the page. And then it was only then that I dove into all of the peer-reviewed empirical data that actually proves that all of this is neurologically beneficial.
Well, tell me more about this data.
So it is mentally, emotionally, and physiologically beneficial for you to spend time journaling. It does everything from speed wound healing, curb asthma. It helps you reduce depression and anxiety, can help boost mood. It does all of that. And as opposed to a lot of wellness modalities that require expensive retreats, classes, copays, this is something that is there for you 24/7, nearly no cost, and it is available to you anywhere, anytime.
So, you're telling me that journaling is not a hobby, that is not scrapbooking.
It can be if that's the way you want to journal,
Yeah,
but my perspective is that my approach
yeah.
is that I utilize journaling as a way to optimize my experience and be more in dialogue with the best version of myself that I can then bring out to the world.
And what do you think someone that is like curious about journaling should start with?
I suggest a low bar as a way of approaching this, as opposed to saying, I'm going to journal for 25 minutes a day every day. That is not setting yourself up for success. We are cognitively very different than we were a decade ago. Before we had these brilliant little devices that we look at first thing in the morning, we are now in a constant state of react and respond. And that makes it much more difficult for us to be able to concentrate for long periods of time. So, what I recommend is what I call 4 by 4 by 4. It's my microdose method. It is a really great, gentle on ramp to help people come to the page. Journal for 4 minutes at a time, not even 5 minutes. Even the busiest people that I coach have 4 minutes at a time. And by the busiest people, I mean the single working moms. And don't try to do it every day. Try to do it 4 days a week and stick with it for 4 weeks. Now, it's not whole 30. If you fall off the wagon, you don't have to start over again. Just bring your attention back to the practice and keep going. The reason why I have devised it this way is that by keeping the bar at something that people are more likely to reach, it builds up a positive association, gives them a nice little dopamine hit from a sense of satisfaction, and it means that they are more likely to do it. Now, if they hit that 4 minute mark and they still want to keep writing, write themselves clean, just wring it all out, keep going. But to fill that 4 minute mark, it means it's just enough time to at least starting to feel a shift over time, cumulatively, you'll be able to really feel a difference. Now, people play around with it, which I love. Some do 5 by 5. Some people decide they want to do 6 by 3. It's meant to be a guideline, 4 by 4 by 4, but you can adjust it based on what works for you.
I love this. And now it makes sense that you're friends with Celia because what I love about her approach too is that it's not overwhelming. Like, I recently wrote an article also about like life maxing and the fact that everything feels like so much homework, and like we don't have that much time. But like you said, I mean, 4 minutes, sure, I can do that. Question: do they have to be early first thing in the morning? Because I have kids and my mornings are chaotic, and there's everyone screaming. I don't have, I try to do like the artist way, and I really like the morning pages, but I can't do it first thing in the morning because my house is chaotic. Does it have less of an effect if I'm doing it after drop off or midday or at night?
I am so glad you asked this question because I think there's a lot of journaling guilt and a lot of journaling stress out there. People feel like unless they are doing it the best way, it doesn't count. And I really want to dissuade all of that from clouding your experience. It is much more, it is about doing it than doing it right. Doing it consistently is better than doing it perfectly.
Yeah.
Now, as far as time of day goes, I actually suggest that people play around with the time of day and see how it affects their journaling. I happen to journal twice a day, which sounds like a lot, but I don't necessarily journal for a long time in the morning or at night. Sometimes in the morning, I have the luxury of time, and I will give myself a more extended period of time. But often I don't. Or at night, I might just want to get some things that are banging out of my head out on the page so I can sleep more soundly. Or maybe I have a longer stretch of quiet time in the evening where I can really stretch out. The point is, it's good to actually play around with different locations and times because we're more activated in different ways and in different environments. And it's great to be in dialogue with your journaling practice and be present to it. See what works for you.
Yeah, I love this because I feel like your approaches is more about like meeting people where they are rather than like assigning a heavy lift that I don't know if I can speak for everyone out there, but I'm sure I speak for most that we just don't have the bandwidth to just take on, you know? Um, so go ahead, sorry.
I want to mention how much respect I have for Julia Cameron and The Artist Way, and I think it's a brilliant book.
Yeah,
However, for we need to remember that that book came out in the early 90s, and that was before social media,
yeah,
email, or the internet, or at least the internet was available to consumers, right? It
yeah,
was. So when you think about the ask of the three blank pages every single morning before you do anything else, as far as I'm concerned, that is not available to most people. It is not cognitively available to most people. So I am trying to meet people where they are. My approach is let's build a big enough tent to invite more people in. And once they start to feel the benefits, then we go from the beginner prompts to things that are more varsity, that are richer and more nuanced. But you have to be able to give people those gentle entry points. Otherwise, they're not going to get to the deeper stuff.
yeah. What's the good way of journaling and what's the bad way of journaling? Because sometimes it can feel like, am I just complaining on the page? Like, where is this going to tell me? You know, where is this going to get me?
So, complaining on the page is a legitimate form of journaling. It's kind of like the little black dress of journaling. However, it is not necessarily what I want to do. I want to be able to have more of a prompt generated opportunity to go past the mind chatter and actually bring my thinking to something that is more interesting and elevated. I want to get out of my day to day as
Mhm,
opposed to just miring in it. Now, there's a time and a place where you can just write yourself clean,
mhm.
where emoting on the page and getting all of that out actually really does help. And I'm not faulting anybody for doing it, but there are so many other ways. And I try to set people up with a suite of different journaling tools so that they can pull them off the shelf depending on their mood, what they're looking to accomplish, where they are, how much time they have, what they feel like they're lacking, or what they're looking to achieve. And that way they have all these different tools that make it possible for them to get the most out of journaling and to enjoy it.
I feel like part of the reason why I found it hard, it was like it seems like self-serving to just like go and like load it all up, and it does feel very cathartic, and I think that's great, but it doesn't feel expansive. And based on what you're telling me is that there are ways to journal, they will be expansive for my
Yes,
brain, right?
yes, yes.
um
And
Let
I
me give
also
you,
I
yeah,
want to address, you asked a really good question that I didn't get to, which was, is there a wrong way to journal?
yeah,
And I am not a purist. If somebody is going to use the notes app on their phone or a journaling app, or they're more comfortable typing on a keyboard, I would rather have them be creatively self-expressed than try to aim for perfection, right? Perfectionism is exactly the opposite of the point of journaling. We all have these performative, creative outputs that we need to be doing for likes, interaction, engagement. No, here we actually have a place where we can be wildly messy and imperfect. So if you use the Notes app on your phone, fine. Would I prefer you to pick up a pen? Absolutely. The best benefits are actually hand across a page. When we are moving our hand, there are synaptic connections that get made in our brain that actually give us the greatest benefit. Additionally, because we are all so digitally connected all the time, to be able to reclaim
yeah,
even a few minutes of that day for yourself in a quiet analog way has an amplifying effect in
yeah.
terms of the additional benefits. But I don't want anybody to feel guilty about their journaling. Like it has to be like you're sipping your adaptogen laden matcha, like, and you're wrapped in just the right, like cashmere throat. Like, no, no, no. Let's get all of that out of here. Just do it when you can, where you can, how you can, and you're doing it right.
Okay, thank you. Because I feel like all this like ritual way of doing things sounds wonderful, but I'm so sick of brands like pitching me that way because I don't have that. I have two screaming children and I have a lot of work to do, and I have a husband. Like there's just so many things in my life that I just don't have that luxury of like being able to like quietly sip my little like tea while looking at the sunset and like journaling. I would love that. And at some point maybe my kids will be old enough and hopefully I can reclaim a little bit more of that. But right now it's just not available to me. And I think that, to your point, this whole idea of having to do it perfect is what makes us just not want to do it at all. Because it's just like, okay, I can't.
Well,
Um,
it's the tyranny of perfectionism, right? And so it also creeps into our wellness routines. That's why I talk about like self-care stress. That if we're not doing all the things and we're not doing it exactly right, then it actually turns on us and we end up feeling worse about ourselves. So that's the opposite of what I'm looking to achieve. And I want this to feel attainable, approachable. I want to ground it in science so people understand the benefits and then they're more likely to prioritize it and then toss the perfectionism and just meet themselves on the page.
okay, I have a question. Let's try to apply this like real life.
Yes,
So like
I love that.
like lands for everyone out there. If you're feeling overwhelmed, what can you do to go from like chaos to clarity?
Yes. So, in a state of overwhelm, it often means that you're not present. Anxiety is a future focused worry. What that means is that your brilliant little brain is scanning for threats, throwing yourself out into the future, and you are imagining those things happening. Okay.
Mhm.
What that means is because our brains are so powerful, our bodies don't know the difference between whether those things are actually occurring or not. So it is actually pumping out various different chemicals into our body because it doesn't know the difference between whether we are imagining the tiger in the woods or if we are actually experiencing a tiger in the woods, right? Our bodies don't know the difference. So, if you're feeling a state of overwhelm, a really great thing to do is to bring yourself into present state and become embodied. Now, I'm a super cerebral person. I often feel like I'm a brain walking around on stilts. I created this for myself as a way to be more mindfully embodied because I'm not like the greatest meditator. I try, but I'm,
Hard.
I'm I it's not my métier, right? So what I do is what I call a sense check. Sit down, open your notebook, and write, what are you seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling? And do it in layers. What I say is like hear beyond the hearing. I sort of bring the ethos of wine tasting to it. Like, okay, the first thing you hear is the whir of your refrigerator, but then maybe you hear somebody walking their dog outside. So you are starting to be present, use your senses, become more mindfully embodied. And within a matter of minutes, what's happening is you're giving yourself an opportunity for your cortisol levels to drop and to become more present. Now, once you are actually back in the room, you are then able to determine better what is actually a threat and what is not.
Wow, I need to try that because I
It's great. It's
like I
great.
need to
I
try
love
that.
doing it.
Okay, next. When you can't make a decision to save your life and you just keep saying, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, and this indecision is killing you, and you go into the page, like, what do? You just write, I don't know.
So when I started Allswell, my notebooks are half lined and half unlined, right? They've got lined pages and unlined pages. And the
Mhm.
reason is not just for writing and drawing, but sometimes in my decision making practice, I don't want the rigor of lines. I want a big open page where I can move things around. And sometimes that means like certain words are larger because they have more import than others. Or like I'm like clustering different concepts together. And that makes it possible for me to have things come into focus instead of it just being a mess. Again, it's about structuring thought. So sitting down and actually drawing it out that way where you're able to locate what things are and how important they are is helpful. The other thing I want to say is I have a lot of really incredible mentors, friends, sources of wisdom in my life. And I'm very, very fortunate. But when it comes to making a decision, a major life decision, ultimately the choice is mine. And the way that I've come to every single major decision in my life, whether that's pivot my business, move across country, don't marry that guy, move back across country, take HRT, don't take HRT. Like all of these things that are major life, health, professional, financial choices, I made them in the pages of my journal. Because even though all of these people who care about me, they have their own experience, their own bias, their own perspective, I come home to what I truly believe, what I truly want, what my vision is on the page. It's where we can pull back all of that external programming and land in ourselves.
Okay, so if I heard this correctly, you are telling me that journaling is not only me just writing things in a list, or, like, you know what I mean, in an essay
In a
form,
linear way, right?
that it also is making a roadmap and like making visuals and
Yes,
making a map for myself. That is also journaling.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh wow, I didn't know it. Um, that's okay. I'm learning so much today. I love it. Okay, next, when you're emotionally or reactive. Let's say you just got into a big fight with someone that is dear in your life, and then you're just trying to like make sense of what you're feeling, and you go into this page and you are livid. What do you do?
I actually think that it's great to do something physical before you sit down. Go for a walk, right?
Oh,
Jump up and down. Like actually like go touch grass. I think it is really great to utilize movement, whether that's, a Pilates class or getting on a treadmill or throwing a ball for your dog. It is great to get some movement so you're not just stuck, right? And it's a tool that has been used for a long time by creatives who are blocked, but
hmm.
it's also a great way to discharge some of that negative energy and then sit down.
Okay.
Then sit down. And what you can do is write down the things that bothered you about it, right? There's various different things. And usually when you go back and reread it, and this is my recommendation, write it all down, write it, get it all out, get it all out, get it dump it all out, and then go back and reread it and see if you still really feel that way. By the end of the writing session, you might be like, oh, I feel better. And then going back and rereading your own words and use a process called heat seeking. So the same way that if you're looking for keywords that sort of pop up off the page that have more resonance, and instead of like reading line by line, heat seek your own words and see what are those words or phrases that pop up off the page for you, and underline or circle them. And then what you're going to witness is a pattern emerge. Very, very likely, because you're using your subconscious to actually sift through this experience. And you will very likely find a pattern there. And it will, I can't say 100%, but
Yeah.
it's going to give you more information about what's actually going on under the hood. Maybe you're hurt. Maybe you're afraid. Maybe, et cetera, et cetera. And once you have a better understanding of like what's really going on and you've discharged some of that reactivity and you've transformed it through writing, revisiting, heat seeking, it gives you more agency. You can switch it up where you write everything down and then you go do
Yeah.
something physical and come back to the page.
Yeah.
Both are good.
No, I love the idea of like heat seeking, kind of like just seeing patterns in words, because I feel like a lot of the time we it's like deep in our brains, but we just don't want to see it. And I feel like when you see it in black and white in a page, there's just no way to escape it, right?
Well, it's interesting because often when I really like write, I might be like, I personally know that if I'm in a state of righteous indignation, I am not at my best.
This is not your prime.
Is not my best look. It
Yeah.
means that I am not in like the highest brain version of myself. But sometimes I need to just write, and I write myself down to a state of being calm, or at least calmer.
Yeah.
And then I can go back and I can like sift through and see what's really there for me. Because all of these frustrating situations that are activating us, they're really happening for us. So like what's there for us? And
Yeah.
that's another great prompt to use, like in a challenging situation. And it doesn't always work when you're highly activated, but if you have a little perspective, you can say, okay, if this is happening for me, what's here for me? What can I learn? How can I transform this? How can I grow from this so that it is not something that is happening to me and it is happening for me?
Okay. And when I feel like I'm gonna try that one out too. The
It's a
next
good
one was
one.
gonna be like, what do you do when you feel lost? But you just answered that so well that I don't need to ask it again. That seems like a really good prompt too. I feel like we as humans also tend to like put ourselves very more often than not in victim mentality. And then when we don't have any agency, there's nothing really that we can do about things, right? Because everything is just happening to us and we're in this inertia state. And what I'm learning by everything that you're telling me and teaching all of us is that journaling can be a way to like take agency over
Yes.
your life and
Yes.
really like empower your life through this, how do you call it? Through this ritual or through this
Through the
practice.
practice,
Right.
yeah. As opposed to just cycling through like victim perpetrator savior, which is what most of us like we
Yeah.
spend all of our lives just cycling through those three archetypes to be able to say, no, okay, there's something else here for me. What's actually going on under the hood, and be aware of it and be in dialogue with it, because that's what personal growth is about. Instead of it being you just being subject to what's happening around you, be in dialogue with it.
If someone went ahead and did this for a week, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's the 4 days, the 5 days, or whatever, 6 days, but like they did it for a week and they like follow your 444 method, what would actually change for them?
Well, I I think that it's not a one size fits all approach because it depends on where they're meeting the page. Like, are they a regular journaler? Are they going through a life
No,
crisis?
someone new that has never journaled before, and then they just try it for the first time, and then they do your 4-4-4 approach. Like after a week, what could they expect to see as a result of that?
I think they're going to feel like they have a new tool that is available to them so that in 1 week, they will already have started to taste and experience the shift that they're able to make in 4 minutes. And once you have a taste of the goods, you're going to want to stick to it. Now, I have a lot of self-care practices. I do all the things,
Yeah,
right? But like if I don't dry brush or like oil pull for a week,
yeah,
I don't really feel any different. But if I don't journal for a week, I am not a good version of myself. And I know I'm going into a very stressful time. It's
yeah.
good stress, but it's still stress. Launching a book, my first time as an author, doing a national book tour with 20 stops, right? And the planning process has been arduous.
Yeah.
And the way that I have protected and supported my mental and physiological health is journaling.
I know you also work as a consultant with many different people, and especially creatives too. Is there a time that you can recall as an example of like someone that whose life changed by, doing this practice?
All the time. Every single workshop, somebody, at least one person comes up to me afterwards and says, that changed everything. That was life changing. Thank you so much. I can't believe what I was missing. Every single time. And I have done hundreds of these, right? There is something really potent about the act of putting pen to paper with intent, especially when applying the tenets of what's in the big unlock where you are being guided. It's not as if you're just flailing around trying to figure it out. You have the support of a method, of an approach, and you're doing it in a way that is intentional. It happens all the time. I mean, I can give you just one example, right? I have a prompt that I call a like list, and it's a warm up prompt that I use in some of my live workshops, and I ask people to simply write down a list of things they like. Now, I'm not asking for them to write down a list of things they love. That's a lot higher stakes. Simply a list of things that they like. And I
Anything.
ask them to use that they like, things that delight them, things they enjoy.
Uh,
And I ask them to use their five senses as one of the tools for casting the net and thinking about and recording things that they like. Typically what happens, I mean, I challenge anybody to do that exercise and not smile. It's like almost, it is going to shift your mood and bring you into a more positive mind space, which is one of the reasons why I like to start things in that way for some workshops. But this particular workshop was with a group of executive women. And at the end of the exercise, I asked how that was for people. Did they come up with anything, et cetera? And she said, that was really hard for me. Tell me why. Because I find people's experiences endlessly fascinating with this content. She said, I don't know what I like anymore. I have been so focused on my company, my family, and quarterly earnings, and everybody else, the shareholders,
yeah,
that I have completely forgotten what I like. And I said, then that's your big unlock, right?
yeah.
Now, with that understanding, she went and she said, I want to go find out. I need to reclaim what do I like? And being able to bring that little piece of awareness through a simple 4 minute journaling activity shifted everything for her.
Oh. It's so true. I feel like more often than not, especially in the type of day and age that we're living in, we're just going and going and going and going and going. And to your point about everything that you were saying before as well, it's just everything just feels so hard, and there's just so many tools and so many things, but this is just something that anyone can do, that is technically free,
Yep.
that you can just do, and that it's has proven, and there's like scientific research that it will make you feel better, right? So I feel like that's why, like for me, it was so important to like have this conversation with you too, because I had a completely different approach to what journaling was, that I do now, especially after reading your book, which by the time everyone hears this conversation is going to be in bookstores, The Vegan Log. And I think it couldn't have come at a better time for me, just because I'm going through a lot of like, personal stuff. But I have been finding it to be such an amazing tool, which is why I also wanted to share with everyone today, especially everyone in my Ceiling Trillion family. Before we leave though, if someone that is listening to this right now is feeling stuck, what will you tell them?
Pick up a pen. Pick up a pen.
That easy, huh?
Yeah. And the idea that you're stuck is actually, I think, a little bit of a misnomer. It's it's about um, you haven't tuned into what's next yet. And so being able to transform the concept of being stuck, because we are not supposed to be in a constant state of forward motion. It is okay.
Say that louder for the people in the back,
Yes,
please.
we are not supposed to be in a constant state of forward motion. And it is very possible that this state that looks like being stuck might actually be slowing down and gestating and considering what next before you just again, run from thing to thing to thing to thing. Part of journaling gives you an opportunity to live a more considered path. And there is nothing wrong with not knowing. The not knowing is a really fertile place for things to grow. Instead of saying, I've got it all figured out, I know what's next, the not knowing is beautiful. And being with that and being in a place of discovery with it, instead of feeling like everybody else has it all figured out and I'm lagging behind. No, no, you're right on time, and the time is now.
Well, on that note, we're going to end. But where can people find you? What's your Instagram? Where can they get the book? Tell us all the things.
Oh, I'm all the places. My Instagram, I have two of them. It's All Swell Creative is the brand, and then I have an individual where I share some of my own experiences and day to day, and that is my name, Laura L. Rubin. I also have a Substack and
Oh,
called Since You Asked, and I'd be delighted to have more of you pop up there if that's something that appeals to you. It's what I call my shares of like demi-elder wisdom, right? I'm not an elder, but I'm not a kid anymore, and this is some of the stuff I've learned along the way. And then as far as the book goes, it's at all major booksellers. So bookshop, bookshops online, bookshops offline, like go find yourself a copy and also like buy it for somebody you love. It is if you love somebody, buy them a journal.
thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Bye.